Hello and welcome to the very first EuroWatch of 2024. Happy New Year! And what a fight we've got coming up this weekend. In a battle of top European bantamweights, Farid Basharat and Taylor Lapillus will clash in Las Vegas. Let's start with Lapillus. It's been a testing career for the Frenchman, who has consistently displayed a very high level of skills. This will be his fifth outing for the UFC, the second in his second stint after going 3-1 for the promotion, but curiously being released 8 years ago. All of that now is in the past, however, and he showed to the world back in September at UFC Paris with a seasoned performance to take the win that he was back. It was a mad situation whereby 4 fighters had their opposition juggled during fight week, landing Lapillus with a highly touted Kalen Loughran, who was making his promotional debut. The Irishman had been agitating the French fans all week, and it reached fever pitch at the weigh-ins, but throughout fight week and the fight, Lapillus remained calm and unfazed. And this is a man who has a big following. He's a noted MMA figurehead with the sport on the French coverage of the UFC. That in itself really impressed me, as I'm sure he was under serious pressure. Then you consider the super late change around opponents for both Loughran and Lapillus, and it's a credit to both men they performed the way that they did. Lapillus brought his usual tricky style, long southpaw hands with a very adept takedown defence, and despite repeated attempts by the Don to ground the fights, Lapillus was patient, and even when he found himself on his back, he built back up without suffering damage and then took the fight into his range to secure the judge's decision. The Frenchman is driven to fight the very best, which I'm sure intensified his frustration after his release back in 2016. But this weekend, he gets another man with strong ties to Europe, Farid Basharat, and he is truly one of the best right now. I've heard Basharat talk about his respect for Lapillus, suggesting that maybe he's not so well known stateside, but here in Europe, we know he is one of the top guys at 135 pounds. He doesn't, however, believe that Lapillus will be able to keep up with him, so where does this confidence come from? First, Basharat is yet to taste defeat in 11 pro fights. He is a well-rounded MMA fighter who has shown us a bit of everything in the octagon already. With 2 UFC wins already bagged, his confidence is flying. He earned his way to the octagon the hard way via Dana White's Contender Series, demonstrating that he has what it takes over 3 rounds. He certainly compounded this notion in his last fight with his first UFC finish over Cledison Rodriguez. He proudly represents the Afghanistan flag and currently resides in Las Vegas, where he feels he has really taken his game to another level. And to be fair, I recently saw a training session where he had 2 former UFC champions, a bunch of other UFC fighters as well, all on the same mat, so you can see why he is leveling up. This should be an all-action fight. Basharat likes to push the pace, but Lapillus showed that even on the back foot, he can do damage and frustrate you. Europe really does have an enviable crop of bantamweight fighters to get behind, and I still consider Basharat as a European after his long stint in London during his formative years. I cannot wrap up this episode without talking about a man that helped me fall more deeply in love with mixed martial arts, Andrei Arlovski. He too will be available for your viewing pleasure right here on UFC Fight Pass. And how gangster is this? 2 of the fighters appearing this Saturday were not even born when Arlovski made his UFC debut back in November of 2000. He since went on to win the UFC title via leg lock. He also has the most fights and most wins in the heavyweight division. He is a true legend of the sport, and he'll be looking to extend his greatness this weekend. I'm sure we won't be seeing him for many more years inside the octagon, so don't miss him this Saturday. Thank you for checking this out today. Enjoy the fights, and I wish you the very best of health and happiness in 2024.